You hear the panicked footsteps echoing across the stone floors of Whitehall. Voices rise, a chorus of fear and dread. The ladies-in-waiting cluster outside a chamber, their faces pale, frozen with shock. The door swings open, and the stench hits you, sweat, rosewater, something sicker beneath it all. Inside, slumped against silk pillows, is Elizabeth Tudor, Queen of England. 29 years old, unmarried, childless, dying of smallpox. You step closer, heart pounding. Her skin glows like furnace stone, a red rash spreading across her chest like spilled wine. The fever racks her body. Lord Robert Dudley kneels at her bedside through the night, whispering reassurances that do little to chase away the terror. Near dawn, she grabs his wrist with surprising strength. "If I die," she whispers, "you must be Lord Protector." The room holds its breath. England's future, its entire dynasty, seems to hang on a thread. Yet, this isn't the tragedy. This is only the beginning. Because Elizabeth survives. Against all expectation, her fever breaks. November 1562. She opens her eyes. And when her ladies bring her a mirror, the reflection staring back is not the same. Cratered scars mar the once perfect face. Something has died in that chamber, something far more vital than her body. From this moment on, everything changes. Before this, marriage negotiations surge forward with relentless pressure. After, the language shifts in correspondence, careful, ambiguous, hesitant. Heirs of her body become uncertain. Diplomatic letters that once promised dynastic continuation now skirt around the subject entirely. 25 serious proposals across 45 years, kings, princes, archdukes, all offering empires, armies, protection, and she finds a reason to delay them all. Historians credit her political cunning, her mastery of diplomacy. But what if the reason was far darker than mere strategy? What if the secret was written in her very body, invisible to the eyes of diplomats, but unmistakable to those who knew the truth? The story of Elizabeth Tudor is not one of choice, but of survival. And you are about to witness the slow, unrelenting price of being both queen and prisoner to your own body. This is the moment everything changed, the crown's weight now heavier than ever. May 19, 1536. You see her as a toddler, no more than 2 years and 8 months old, standing in the cold shadows of the Tudor court. The cannon fires across the Thames. One blast. That sound announces her mother's execution, and Bullen's head separated from her body, rolling away from her eyes. Elizabeth, just a child, is declared illegitimate that very night. Her title stripped, her protections vanished, her life now entirely at the whim of Henry VIII. Imagine watching the royal court, silk banners waving, courtiers whispering, knives hidden in their smiles. Every lesson Elizabeth learns is survival. The court is a labyrinth of cruelty, and calculated cruelty. The lessons are brutal, your body is evidence. Your worth is determined by male authority, fluctuating daily. Her mother's execution is the first of many brutal truths she absorbs. Elizabeth grows quickly. At age 14, Thomas Seymour enters her bedchamber before she is fully dressed. He lingers in shadows, his presence violating the sanctity of her youth. When he is later arrested for treason, Elizabeth is interrogated for weeks. They question her virginity, her intentions, her body, everything. Every moment recorded in reports that will haunt her for life. Then the Tower. March 1554. You follow her down damp, narrow corridors where her mother once awaited death. The walls echo with centuries of despair. Locked away for 2 months, she faces each footstep as if it were the herald of her execution. And yet, somehow, she survives again. Mary Tudor cannot build a case against her. Elizabeth emerges not as a child but as a survivor, hardened, invisible, and lethal in her discretion. Mary dies. The crown passes to Elizabeth at 25. The moment you stand in her chambers, imagining the weight of the crown settling on her, you feel the pressure of centuries pressing down. Within weeks, marriage negotiations begin. Producing heirs is no longer optional. Every suitor, every ambassador, every foreign prince comes with a list of demands. Her body, once a private sanctuary, is now the instrument of national survival. And you sense it, Elizabeth is learning the most vital lesson she will ever teach the world. To survive, one must become untouchable. To rule, one must transform fear into power. The girl who hid in the tower has become a queen whose mastery of control will terrify the continent. Survival is never graceful, it is a mastery of what must remain unseen. October 1562. Hampton Court. You hear the screams before you see her collapse. Fever has claimed Elizabeth, spreading its poison through her body. Within hours, the red rash appears, fiery and unforgiving. Smallpox. 4 days of unconsciousness, whispers of death filling the corridors. Counselors debate succession as though she were already gone. When she awakens, you see the mirror carried to her. The reflection is horrifying. Her once golden face is cratered, marred by deep scars that will never fade. Venetian white lead paste is applied in a thick, suffocating mask each morning, a daily ritual of concealment. The face she presents to the world is no longer human, it is armor, a mask of invulnerability. Smallpox does more than scar the skin. You imagine the damage beneath the surface: reproductive organs ravaged, pelvic inflammatory disease, the ovaries and fallopian tubes compromised. Medical evidence suggests that after this fever, bearing children might never be possible. Before 1562, diplomats wrote of heirs, dynasties, and the continuity of England. Afterward, the language shifts, heirs of her body now uncertain, a caution rarely stated outright. 4 years later, a new pain arrives. Severe abdominal distress. Doctors are finally permitted to examine her fully. Records are sparse, censored by court secrecy. Dr. Wick enters her chamber. What he sees is never fully documented. Within a year, he dies under sudden fever. His knowledge dies with him, leaving only hints and whispers. Marriage negotiations continue. Kings and princes still come, promising empires, armies, riches. But the urgency is gone. The secret, the truth hidden in Elizabeth's body, is now an unspoken fact, an invisible boundary no diplomat can cross. The Virgin Queen's choice, her power, her survival, all begin with this fever. Even queens are prisoners of the bodies they inherit. The Queen survived, but the kingdom would feel the consequences for decades. You watch Elizabeth adjust her stays, tighten the laces around her ribs. Each day, hours spent standing in rigid posture. Whalebone, wood, steel, all pressing her torso into a triangle of perfection. The court applauds her composure, unaware that each breath she takes is shallow, each step measured to prevent collapse. The body of the Queen is no longer her own. It is her weapon, her shield, her prison. Imagine the layers of lead and powder covering her face, masking cratered scars. Venetian white lead absorbs slowly into the bloodstream. Over years, it attacks bones, liver, and brain. Headaches, memory lapses, mood swings, all chronicled in her letters and council notes, rarely understood. The public sees only porcelain skin, ageless, divine. The truth is rot, corrosion, and quiet pain. Then there are the political pressures. Each suitor, each ambassador, each envoy is a reminder of what she cannot safely give. Love becomes impossible. Marriage becomes impossible. Heirs? A luxury now barred by biology itself. Robert Dudley remains her companion, the one man who understands the private terror behind the public mask. Yet, even he cannot lift the weight of her scars, physical or emotional. In 1568, Mary, Queen of Scots, arrives. A living threat, fertile, legitimate, and Catholic. You see Elizabeth calculating, balancing the threat against her own compromised body. Every decision is measured against the possibility of heirs, succession, survival. You realize that power and fear are intimately entwined. You sense her isolation. Even Dudley cannot shield her from the implications of biology, politics, and duty. She is alone, trapped between what the world demands of her and what her body allows. Her legendary restraint, her myth of the Virgin Queen, is born from necessity, not mere choice. Her counselors whisper, advisors plot, but none dare confront her. She has the power, but her body holds the ultimate veto. And in this, you see the cruelest irony of monarchy. The crown can demand everything, but cannot demand a healthy body. Power without heirs is a crown without substance. The Queen's body became the battleground of history. You stand at Elizabeth's side as Robert Dudley enters the chamber. The years of shared childhood, of whispered confidences in corridors now lost to history, weigh heavily in the air. His presence is electric, familiar, a reminder of what she cannot have. The scandal of Amy Robsart's death lingers like a shadow, a constant threat to legitimacy. Every whisper, every ambassador's note, carries a hidden accusation. You see her eyes follow him. She wants to love him, perhaps for the first time in her life. But love has consequences. Marriage, heirs, political alliance, all are now fraught with impossible risks. A secret lingers in the heart of the Queen, unspoken, terrifying. Her body, weakened and scarred by smallpox, cannot bear the duties a marriage would demand. Even Dudley senses the invisible wall between them. You watch him try to bridge the gap, offering comfort, counsel, loyalty, but the Queen's gaze remains distant. The court is always watching. Every gesture of intimacy, every secret meeting, could ignite whispers that threaten the stability of her reign. Elizabeth makes a choice that haunts history. She keeps Dudley close, grants him power and status, yet refuses marriage. The world believes in political calculation. You know better. She sacrifices personal happiness to maintain control, to protect a kingdom that depends on her vigilance. The weight of her secret is unbearable. You can almost feel it pressing down, a physical presence, a crown forged from both love and loss. Every suitor afterward, every diplomatic negotiation, carries the ghost of Dudley and the impossible love that could never be. And in this moment you realize, the Virgin Queen is not an icon born from choice. She is an icon sculpted from survival, biology, and the quiet devastation of what could never be. Sometimes love is a weapon as cruel as any army. You step into the Queen's private chamber. The morning ritual begins, Venetian white lead mixed with vinegar, applied thickly to hide every pockmark, every scar inflicted by smallpox. The smell is sharp, metallic, clinging to your nostrils. This is not vanity. It is armor, a defense against a world that would exploit weakness. You watch her tighten the stays around her torso. Whalebone, wood, and steel press against ribs, forcing her body into the rigid silhouette demanded by Tudor fashion. Each breath is shallow. Each movement deliberate. The public sees perfection. The private reality is agony. Decades of this torture leave permanent indentations, cracked ribs, displaced organs. She becomes both monument and martyr to her own survival. Lead poisoning seeps slowly, invisibly. Headaches, memory lapses, abdominal pain, tremors, all consequences of centuries of masking the truth. Her letters hint at fatigue, frustration, melancholy. Her ladies-in-waiting bear witness to a body slowly breaking under the weight of beauty and power. You follow the echoes of her suffering into political strategy. Every ambassador's letter, every marriage proposal, every negotiation is influenced by what her body can endure, what it can safely produce. The Queen cannot risk exposure, cannot risk producing heirs. The public myth of the Virgin Queen is maintained not by choice alone, but by necessity. She must appear ageless, flawless, divine. Portraits from this period are stylized illusions. The rainbow portrait, for example, does not depict reality, it depicts power, control, and an imperfection hidden beneath layers of makeup and silk. You feel the irony. In preserving the myth, she destroys the very vessel that holds it. And yet she endures. Her body is a battlefield, her face a mask, her silhouette a prison. Every hour standing upright, every ounce of strength feigned, is a testament to the extreme costs of rulership. You understand at last that immortality in memory often comes at the expense of the flesh. The body of a queen is a battlefield no one sees. Power demands sacrifice, and the price is often written on flesh. You see Mary, Queen of Scots, arrive in England in 1568, a threat tangible in every step she takes. Fertile, legitimate, Catholic, Mary embodies everything Elizabeth cannot be, a queen with heirs, a woman whose life and body are unscarred by the cruelty of disease or politics. The tension between them is electric, a silent duel of power, legitimacy, and survival. You imagine the plotting that fills the corridors. Every letter, every secret meeting, every whisper carries a weight that could shift the balance of the kingdom. Mary's existence challenges everything Elizabeth has fought to preserve. Every decision now carries unimaginable consequence: protect her legacy, protect her throne, protect herself. Assassins lurk. Plots whisper through shadowed chambers. The Babington plot of 1586 nearly succeeds in murdering Elizabeth. You feel the fear that grips her court, the paranoia that infiltrates every corner of Whitehall. Each threat reinforces the isolation that has defined her reign. Love, intimacy, trust, all become dangerous luxuries. Dudley is gone, leaving behind only the memory of a love that could never exist fully. Robert Devereux, Earl of Essex, becomes a surrogate, but even this connection is colored by political maneuvering and personal obsession. You see the loneliness etched into the Queen's expressions, her letters, her decisions. Even the smallest lapse can be fatal. By 1587, Mary is executed. You witness the cruelty of history. Elizabeth signs the death warrant herself, a measured act that ensures England's survival but leaves her personally haunted. Depression follows, not hidden by makeup or protocol. She weeps, isolates, mourns silently. The cost of survival is more than physical, it is emotional, psychological, spiritual. You feel the weight of her existence. Every moment of public triumph, every portrait, every diplomatic victory carries with it the invisible toll of disease, poison, fashion, and fear. Elizabeth's kingdom flourishes, yet the Queen herself is slowly destroyed by the very structures she sustains. Even empires bow to the fragility of a single body. Isolation is the shadow that follows every crown. You follow her into the 1590s, decades into a reign that has already claimed more of her body than any enemy ever could. Lead poisoning, deteriorating organs, compressed ribs, trembling hands, all visible only to the closest attendants. You can sense the fragility beneath the icon, the cost of appearing immortal. Elizabeth dotes obsessively on Robert Devereux. You watch her hope for companionship, a replacement for the love and loss of Dudley, and the safety of isolation. Essex's failed campaign in Ireland brings confrontation. He sees her without her mask for the first time, the scars of smallpox, the decay from lead, the tired body hidden for decades. Shock freezes him. You can almost hear the silent warning in her gaze. Vulnerability is dangerous. By 1601, the rebellion of Essex ends with his execution. You feel the culmination of her reign's isolation, the toll of decisions, the crushing weight of survival. Her body, already compromised, begins to fail faster. Eating, sleeping, speaking, every action becomes labor. Perfume and makeup cannot disguise the degeneration. Wigs pile higher, masks heavier, all part of the endless effort to maintain myth over flesh. She refuses to lie down in her final weeks. Upright, supported by cushions in her ladies, she endures, clinging to control, even as organ failure progresses. You sense the terror, the stubbornness, the refusal to surrender. It is both defiance and survival instinct, the same lesson she learned as a child in the Tower. March 23, 1603. The dawn approaches. Archbishop Whitgift kneels, prayers whispered, hands held. Her body, finally unable to resist, surrenders. Eyes unfocused, breath shallow, she passes without last words. The Virgin Queen is gone, leaving behind a myth carefully crafted, a legacy built on endurance, deception, pain, and survival. You step back, and the enormity of her life strikes you. Every scar, every mask, every political maneuver was both strategy and necessity. The truth is harrowing. She never married, never bore children, not entirely by choice. Smallpox, lead poisoning, fashion, and political survival dictated the impossible. History remembers the Virgin Queen, but you know the reality. A queen who could not afford to reveal her vulnerability, whose body and heart paid the ultimate price for power. She ruled a kingdom, but it cost her body, her love, and her humanity. You walk the empty corridors of Whitehall in your mind, the shadows stretching long across polished floors that will never see Elizabeth again. The candles have burned out centuries ago, yet the echo of her presence lingers, heavier than dust, heavier than the weight of crowns and crowns of lies. You can almost hear the creak of her stays, the whisper of her skirts against the stone, the careful step of a queen who had learned to endure pain as a weapon. The silence here is not peace. It is memory, folded over itself, like the heavy layers of lead she painted over her scars, an attempt to hold history at bay, only to have it claw its way back. Look closer, and you see it everywhere. The portraits do not lie, they conceal. The rainbow portrait, the images of eternal youth, the iconography of virginity, Power, divinity, they are shields, masks, codified lies of survival. Yet beneath the paint, beneath the posture, her suffering pulses like a heartbeat through the ages. Every smallpox scar, every groove of compressed ribs from her stays, every tremor from poison and exhaustion, whispers to you, power exacts a price no one is willing to name. You feel it in the echo of a queen who could not surrender, who could not marry, who could not rest. Her body became a battlefield where politics, medicine, and duty collided with the raw human cost of survival. Step into the gardens of Greenwich. Imagine her there, in the autumn light of her final years, shoulders stiff, hands trembling, the perfume failing to mask the rot beneath. You hear the faintest sighs of regret carried on the wind. And yet she persists. She must. For decades she fought not just enemies abroad, but the silent war inside her own flesh, bending it to the will of the crown. You realize then the cruel calculus of monarchy. Survival demands sacrifice, often of the self, often unseen, often ignored by the history books. The Virgin Queen is not a myth, she is a caution written in blood, in skin, in shattered expectation. You can see the centuries of women and rulers who would inherit her lessons, willingly or not. Her silence teaches you something else. History has preferred the spectacle of her decisions, the political maneuvers, the refusals, the public pageantry, but her silence about her suffering, about the impossibility imposed upon her by smallpox, lead, and custom, is the darker truth. You recognize it in the quiet corners of power still today, the unspoken, the unbearable, the hidden injuries that govern empires as much as armies or treaties. In her refusal to marry, in her insistence on controlling her own narrative, Elizabeth became both myth and mirror. You stare into that mirror and feel the uncomfortable reflection. How often do power and survival demand sacrifices invisible to the world? How often do the strong bear costs the weak cannot imagine? And yet, the echo is not only pain. It is defiance. It is intellect, cunning, and the capacity to endure what no one else could. You understand why she kept Dudley close but never married. Why she endured decades of lead, unbearable stays, political pressure, conspiracies, and assassination plots. The Virgin Queen stands as a monument not just to England, but to the human will against the relentless march of circumstance, disease, and expectation. Her victories are measured not in heirs or alliances, but in the quiet persistence of her life, her reign, her choices. The story of her body, her suffering, and her sovereignty endures, long after the palace crumbles and the faces of those courtiers fade from memory. You leave the imagined palace corridors and step into the world of today, yet her shadow follows. Every portrait you pass, every historical text you encounter, every discussion of monarchy or female leadership carries her imprint. The world she navigated, the impossible expectations she bore, the choices she had to make, or could not make, still resonate. You realize that history is never truly dead, it is a living echo, repeating, reframing, reminding you that power and sacrifice, love and loss, vulnerability and endurance are inseparable. Elizabeth's legacy is not simply her decisions, but the haunting cost of being a queen in a world that demanded both divinity and impossibility of her body and soul. And finally you step away, yet the echo remains. The Virgin Queen teaches that the past is never buried, that memory endures even when official records erase names, even when political agendas rewrite truth. Her scars, on her face, on her body, on history itself, speak louder than any crown, any proclamation, any myth. The lesson is clear, unyielding, power is never without cost, and the most profound tragedies are often invisible, written not in blood alone, but in the enduring silence of those who must survive it.